What is up, hotties? Welcome back to another episode of Stay Hot. I'm Bladen Kirk, joined as always by my two favorite co-hosts of all time, in Matthew Sponhour and Theo Ash. We have a great episode planned for you all today. Going to go over a lot of the NFL free agency stuff that has happened because, again, every time we blink, something happens. Last episode, we said as soon as we get off this episode, the DeShaun Watson news is going to drop, and sure enough, that's exactly what happened. Then we're going to go over some of the NFL draft prospects, in particular the wide receivers. I know, Theo, you've been scouting those guys a lot recently, so should be a good conversation there. And then we'll wrap things up with some March Madness because there have been a ton of upsets. But before we get into all of that, Matt, Theo, how are you guys doing today?
I don't think we've ever had an episode age worse than last one. Like, watching that back, I'm like, man, I'm really disappointed on what the Raiders are doing this year. I would have thought they could have done more. I wish they added a wide receiver, and then as soon as that recording ends, obviously the Davante Adams news happens.
I mean, what are you going to do?
What are you going to do? What are you going to do? I mean, you can't just expect that to happen. And like Watson, we're like, well, it's coming down to probably the Saints, and then he gets traded to the Browns, and it's like, okay, we just offered no insight on the Browns. And then, of course, all of our March Madness predictions, or at least all of mine. My bracket is unbelievably bad. My bracket is unbelievably bad. And I tried. I really did.
I think I had Kentucky going to the Final Four, which is not great because they lost in the first round to a 15 seed. But overall, I'm still out here fighting. I have 7 of my Elite 8 are still in it. So I think I'm okay. I think I can still pull off a good bracket. It really all comes down to getting the winner rate.
There's like 326 entries in our pool that actually got filled out. There are a couple extras that just are blank. I am ranked 311th with the least points remaining of anybody.
The Tennessee championship pick was
Tennessee versus Baylor. The LSU interim head coach thing was kind of a bold take, but I really do think like interim head coaches I really do subscribe by that, but not this time. So
I had him in my Sweet 16. So
it's no good, but I did bet on St. Peter's to win, and I won $300 doing that. So that was big time, and I can't feel too bad about it because I will probably end up profiting from this run overall, even though all of my other ones are bad and wrong. So
I'll take the slightly better bracket over the money, me personally. But
guy like me,
just me.
Matt's all about the prestige.
I'm more about the honor, really. And I did end up seeing the new Batman last night, and I like it a lot. It was very good.
I still haven't seen it.
It's worth seeing.
I'll go see it.
I heard it's really long.
It is really long.
So was Endgame was really long too, so I guess that's fair. Just a reminder, everyone, subscribe to the YouTube channel and get yourself a Stay Hot hoodie. I'm wearing the Stay Hot hoodie. Someone tweeted at us that it is like the most comfortable thing they've ever worn. I think it's really comfortable, but I don't know about the most comfortable thing I've ever worn. But I do appreciate someone else thinking that.
It's the most comfortable thing I've ever worn. I don't know about you. It's the most comfortable thing I've ever worn. And it's also the shirt that is okay. It's also the shirt that's gotten me the most compliments ever walking down the street. And yeah.
Really? Wow.
Oh yeah, absolutely. People can't stop talking about it. You should buy one yourself. Yeah, dear listener.
Buy one yourself. I'm going to go walk outside after this episode and see how many compliments I
you're
get.
going to get so many.
But let's just hop into some NFL free agency and trade news. I think we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about DeShaun Watson going to the Browns, an episode where I can talk about the Browns and it be justified. I mean, the Browns have done a few big things this offseason. A, getting Amari Cooper. B, getting DeShaun Watson. And yeah, they alienated Baker in the process, but they will probably be a better football team because of it. So I can't really be mad. The only thing that I'm upset about is that it's like we have to pay the most money guaranteed to a quarterback ever, or to a player ever. And there is that gray area of the, how morally right is this? But other than that,
what do you think? What do you think about it?
Oh, there's nothing to think.
I feel like that's very much not the case.
They tried to press criminal charges, but because sexual assault is so hard to, prove in a criminal court because it's, innocent until proven guilty, there's like no way they could have possibly done that. So it's just like, what? And then everyone's like, oh, well, I guess he's innocent and I'm just supposed to be over here and be okay with that. Like,
so
I've been going on rants on Twitter and it's like, I'm not a total fan of the move just because but it's like the Browns at this point have already shown that they like don't care. Like they have Kareem Hunt.
From a football standpoint, how are you feeling about it?
Yeah.
Good.
You're feeling good.
Football standpoint, good. I feel good. Like, okay, let's say DeShaun Watson is a shell of himself. Is that still better than Baker Mayfield? Probably.
I haven't really looked at the entirety of the Watson contract to see how it plays out.
It is 5 years, 200.
And it's very interesting because the first year has a base salary of $1 million. So if he were,
is that real?
Yes, that is.
Because I was looking. Okay. Because I'm like, there's no way his cap hit's just going to be like 10 million this year. But
that's the way that works. His cap hit's 10 million this year. They're going all in. I feel like. I mean, they're going.
Our producer is telling us it's so that if he gets suspended, he doesn't lose a big portion of his money.
It's now. I mean, I just don't know if that works out for the Browns because, I mean, the cap hit has to eventually come. So then you're looking at $220 million in cap hit over the next 4 years.
Yes.
If it's 10 million this year and it's 230 million. And considering a lot of it's guaranteed, restructuring is where like a basic restructure would be you take base salary and convert it into a signing bonus. Yeah. So his base salary will always be really low because it's fully so you can't do that as easily, can you? Or am I totally off base about that?
I'm not the world's foremost cap expert. I do know this though.
If we had a cap expert here, they could probably answer that, but we do not.
I do know this though.
I don't know.
I'm looking at the Super Bowl winning quarterbacks. Yes. All right, Matthew Stafford won this year, and he was making little money, and he just re-signed another big he just got re-signed in LA for 4 years. There's the big contract. Tom Brady won a Super Bowl. We all know that he takes pay cuts. Patrick Mahomes won a Super Bowl before the big deal. Tom Brady won a Super Bowl. We know he takes pay cuts. Nick Foles obviously was making no money, and this was before a big Carson Wentz deal. Tom Brady, we know he takes pay cuts. Then it was Peyton Manning when he was old and not making as much money as he was before. Then it was Tom Brady. We know he takes pay cuts. Then it was Russell Wilson before any kind of mega deal when he was a rookie.
Rookie contract.
Then it was Joe Flacco before any kind of huge contract for him. Then it was Eli Manning, who was never really the highest paid guy. Then it was Aaron Rodgers before the highest paid contract. So, when has giving a quarterback a big contract ever worked in terms of winning a Super Bowl? Years and 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 years. It hasn't happened. It hasn't happened. And there's a point where it's like, okay, what have we learned from this? We never learn anything because it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's like, I'm at the point now where it's like, I understand you can't let Rodgers walk. I understand that you need a top 5 quarterback, but it's like, man, dude, this never works.
Overpay those guys.
This never works.
Them. Right. And the thing is that it used to be that they didn't give. It's hard to judge sometimes because, like, obviously Peyton Manning in 2004 is not going to get a biggest contract as a guy now is because of salary cap, but they were bigger even by comparison.
Right.
I mean, you have Watson out here. He's getting a deal that's giving him 25% of the cap. And you gave up assets to give him that. It's insane. You go back and look, Peyton, even the best all-time quarterbacks have problems winning Super Bowls as soon as they get paid. Brady couldn't do it.
Yeah, Brady
didn't do it.
Brady took big contracts.
Rodgers doesn't do it without a Super Bowl.
Yeah, Brady took big contracts in the middle of his career, I think, and it became like the highest paid guy. They went a decade without winning one. You know, it's been his rookie contract when he was really early in his career, and then he went like a decade without winning one, and then like towards the back half of his career and the back end of his career, he started winning rings again. So giving these huge deals to quarterbacks is like, I get you. It's you get fired if you're in the playoffs all the time, you get to keep your job. That's the thing. Like if you let Rodgers walk, if you have Baker, you're probably getting fired. So like everybody has to do it. Yeah. But at the same time, it's like, man, this doesn't work. This does not work.
Well, that's that is the cycle, right? It's like, oh well, this doesn't work, but we don't have a choice. I feel like everyone knows it doesn't work, but it's just like, what's your alternative?
I know. So I don't know. Right? I'm glad I'm not in that position, but yeah,
it's like, oh, it doesn't work, but it's like, do we draft a guy and just hope that he's good, or do we just say, fuck it, we're going to spend the money on a guy that we know is good and just hope that we already have the team in place to make it work, which the Browns last year, you would have said probably do. But, this year with all the guys they lost on their defensive line, it's like they lost, what was it? Tack McKinley,
Clowney,
Malik Jackson, Clowney, and they replaced, they lost 5 or 6 guys on their defensive line, and they replaced them with Chase Winovich.
Winovich, who played 14% of defensive snaps for the Patriots last year with 0 tackles
I don't hate
for
Chase
0
Winovich
tackles for loss and 0 sacks.
I liked him coming out of the draft, but
yeah, no, it's tough. It's tough for me to in this AFC for me to ever envision the Browns to win a Super Bowl in the current landscape, I guess. And look, here's the thing about I think they'll make I think they will have a top offense. I really do, because they're going to have the best rushing attack in football. They always do over the past couple of years. And they've had efficient, Stefanski has put forward efficient passing offenses before. With Baker in 2020, they were borderline top 10. With Kirk Cousins, they were borderline top 10. So with Watson, you're thinking, okay, if you can be borderline top 10 with 2020 Baker, you can be a top 5 passing offense with Watson, or a top 5 offense. So, and if you're a top 5 offense, you're probably making the playoffs unless you're the Chargers and you're just absolutely sell on defense. But with Myles, I do like the cornerback room in Cleveland. I think they have a decent enough secondary, and they'll probably always have at least a baseline pass rush as long as Myles Garrett is healthy. So I don't know if the defense will completely sell, and they should have a top 5 offense. So I can definitely see this being a playoff team, but man, if you're going to sell your soul and get Watson, you probably should get a Super Bowl from it. And this is, I just don't know if I see that in their cards.
The thing that they'll do is they'll restructure a bunch of contracts.
They will.
And they're going to keep trying. They will be as aggressive as humanly possible doing that till the end of time. But even then, it's what if Watson's suspended for half the season?
Yeah.
Are you going to make the playoffs?
And Watson has
because of Kobe Brissett season. Man.
Watson has also a bad injury history as well. He tore his ACL his rookie year. He dealt with a lot of stuff in high school and college. So he hasn't been the most reliable staying on the field. But this is all doom and gloom about the Browns.
They're going to be better.
They're going to be better. But it's all of a sudden when the expectations shift, now it's a Super Bowl. It's are you going to reach the highest of high expectations?
From a football, I'll say this: the Browns have had the same problem forever. They don't have a quarterback. They don't have a quarterback. They don't have a quarterback. And now they do. And it doesn't mean that the work is just over for the front office and everything's perfect. Now they have a really hard challenge kind of the other way, building around a guy when you've given up a bunch of assets and a bunch of money for him. But I'd say Cleveland probably would rather deal with that problem. I'd rather attempt dealing with that problem, especially when it not working out is probably still playoffs.
Yeah. And I'm really interested to see what Stefanski does with his offense, because usually he's 29th in passing attempts, 30th in passing attempts. Those are the types of, his offense gives him training wheels with we're not going to really pass the ball at all compared to other teams in the league. We're going to keep it on the ground. And when we do pass it, we're going to incorporate a lot of play action and try to get those linebackers to bite. And there's your read and just hit it. It's training wheels, But Watson doesn't need training wheels, right? Watson ran an offense he ran the Patriots offense under Bill O'Brien, or a Patriots-esque offense. And what the Patriots offense does is really ask the quarterback to win with their mind, right? Full control at the line of scrimmage, full field reads. There's no Mickey Mouse stats that Watson put up in 2020. There's no, his team was just so OP. His coach was just scheming guys open. I mean, obviously every coach is just going to scheme guys open, but the Patriots aren't, or Bill O'Brien wasn't a guy who was just we need to really there's your read. Please just be accurate enough to hit it. And or Sean McVay, when he had Goff, was doing that, lots of play action, lots of under center, single back, get an extra blocker and just let Goff make the one read and just hope he's accurate enough to hit it. But then they got Stafford, shotgun now, less play action. There's less reliance on the running game. So he transformed his offense into something that is like a little bit more dangerous. And Stefanski, I think, is going to have to do the same thing because you got Watson now. You probably shouldn't be 30th in passing attempts, and that's just not something we've seen from Stefanski.
Last year, the Browns did try and get away from the play action and let Baker be a little bit more open with it, and that failed. It didn't work, and people got mad at Stefanski. They were like, "Oh, why don't you go back to the run game and the play action?" It's like, so what? You just want him to totally restrict the offense because the quarterback can't get it done? It's like, no. You shouldn't have to do that. Yeah. You should be able to open up your playbook a little bit. So, at that point for me, it was like, either they're going to move on from him, or at least like if we did keep Baker, it was going to be like, hey, this is something like this off season, like, what we want to do now. Let's get it down. But, obviously they moved on from him. So I do imagine that they have a plan to open up the playbook again this year a little bit more. But the Browns were the only team that made a big trade. The Las Vegas Raiders sent who I thought was gonna, be future Cleveland Browns legend Derek Carr. Turns out it's future Las Vegas Raiders legend Davante Adams.
I got this news. I tweeted at the exact same time that this news dropped, and I tweeted that I had bet on St. Peter's, a bet that ended up hitting. But no one cared about my bet. Everybody just immediately was like, Theo check Schefter. And I checked Schefter, and I was with my friend Tyler, who's also a Packers fan. And I was like, oh my God, Tyler, this is bad. And
you both fell to your knees.
We both fell to my knees in his apartment. And I was like, I gotta talk about this. I gotta go to my room and record something because people will be itching to hear my response. So I live in a different building on like very nearby. So I walk across the street and I'm waiting for the elevator, and I'm waiting for the elevator and it's taking forever and I'm the only one there. And Nirvana's Something in the Way is playing in the background. the song on TikTok, that's a big thing right now. It was a very moody scene for me as I'm just sitting there waiting for the elevator with this franchise shifting mood, and this like Batman like moody song is playing in the background. I was like, oh boy. But after thinking it over, my thoughts on the trade are this. Any other franchise, well, we're talking about the Browns. They just gave up a 5th round pick for Amari Cooper, a day 3 pick for Amari Cooper. Yeah. That's what that was worth. That contract was worth in that player. Robert Woods just got traded for a 6th round pick. All right. He's another really good wide receiver. 6th round. So for the Packers to get a 1st and a 2nd for Adams in this market is not bad. All right. It's
great.
You'd expect it to be a little bit more just because it's like, okay, this has been a first team all pro guy 2 straight years. And, maybe you expected 2 first round picks for him, but in this wide receiver market, looking at it compared to the other deals, you take it. And if it was,
I think it's fantastic.
I think that's absolutely amazing. The big thing with this trade is we keep talking about how there's so many good wide receivers, right? I mean,
every year,
this point, like it's been so every year there's like a new receiver breaking the rookie record for receiving yards. It's like.
Right.
If you can get a receiver for a 1st round pick like Davante, you take that.
Yeah. When people think about like positional value, I think people rank wide receiver pretty high on that list of like the most valuable positions. Wide receiver, yes. I think a lot of people would maybe put it 2nd or 3rd. I kind of reject that a little bit just because every year is a historic wide receiver class. It seems like it does not seem to be that hard to go out and get a wide receiver to produce right away. Like supply and demand. Like it may be like creating explosives on offense is probably the most valuable play that can happen. All right. And wide receivers, you kind of need a wide receiver to do that. So from that standpoint, I'm like, okay, yeah, wide receivers are valuable, but from like a supply and demand perspective, it's like, I can like see it's easier to get one of those than like a great corner. Or a great anything. I think it's like there are more good wide receivers in football right now than there are good any other position in football. But yes, I agree with that. But if it was any other team other than the Raiders, I would look at that like, okay, Davante Adams is going to be 30. He's going to be 30 next season, and you just traded for a 1st and 2nd round pick, and you gave him $28 million a year. And $28 million is a lot for a wide receiver. It's only $1 million more than DeAndre Hopkins, but it goes Adams Hopkins at like 28, 27. And then there's like a large gap. And then it's like 20 million. Like that's where like the third most. So it's like $8 million above the third highest paid wide receiver. It's a lot of money for a 30-year-old. And it's like, and the picks. So I would be a little bit more dubious about this move if it was any team other than the Raiders, because the Raiders got to take that chance. Like the Raiders, they need to be aggressive and and like Davante's 30, but I think he has the type of game that's going to age like Larry Fitzgerald.
What was the Raiders first round pick? Like 22? Okay. Let's say, I don't even think Burks would have fallen there, but let's say Burks falls there. Is Burks better than Davante?
No.
God, I mean, like
exactly.
So the Raiders aren't competing for a Super Bowl. They are not in a position. They don't have like some like mega.
I mean, they made the playoffs last year.
Tier. What?
They made the playoffs last year.
Are the Raiders built like a Super Bowl winning team?
Probably not.
Is there a path to them being built like a Super Bowl winning team? Probably not. Is it a bad move? Like, yes. Trading a first and a second for a receiver, to pay a receiver the highest amount of money is like, would a team that's going to win the Super Bowl do that? Probably not.
I don't know. I don't know if I would consider a bad move, because we've already talked about. It depends on what they do in the draft. Their secondary concerns me. They need to do one more thing, and that is get a corner, because Casey Hayward is gone. They have Rock Ya-Sin now. Unless I've missed something, I don't believe they have like an alpha cornerback.
Who's in their cornerback?
I mean, Carr is below the threshold of Super Bowl winning quarterback contracts, I believe, at this point. But I really do love their weapons. Like if you have Renfro in the slot and Waller at the Y at the tight end and Davante winning one-on-ones or drawing double teams, and then maybe you get they love a speed, and they had Ruggs, and then Ruggs obviously went to jail, and then they signed DeShaun Watson to fill that like deep threat role. He's a free agent now. They still need that guy most likely, and I think they'll find him in the draft. But man, with those weapons in Derek Carr, that could also be a really, really, really effective offense. I think that's one of the more well-built stables of weapons in the league. And their defense was like surprisingly kind of nice last year, despite the lack of top end talent there. I do think Chandler Jones is an upgrade over Yannick Ngakoue. It's like if they could figure this secondary out, I do think that they could be contenders, but it would be...
Their corners are Rock Ya-Sin and Darius Phillips.
Yeah. Leatherwood would need to take a step too. Their offensive line isn't great. I don't know. I could see a world where they contend, because I really do think they kind of... I like their defensive coordinator a lot, the guy from the Giants, Patrick Graham. And I do like their offense. So I don't know, because it's like, what do? You do pack up shop? Because if they're, I don't know, because they couldn't just roll over and be fourth in the division. No one wants that. So I think there's a world where they're not, they're in the, I don't know.
You had to do something. And if you can just say, hey, you know what? We give up a first and a second. We get arguably the best receiver in football, and Derek Carr gets to play with his best friend from college. You take that. Make your quarterback happy. I don't know. I feel like that's a win.
I don't know. I wonder where they are in the AFC to come out of the AFC, like their Super Bowl odds, because you'd like that to be probably not like 8th or 9th. So, but they probably are like 8th or 9th in that division for the Super Bowl, which is a little tough. Matt, I see where you're coming from, though. I do, but
I didn't say I was against the move.
Okay.
I wasn't. I was going to say, like, you can't not compete. I made a TikTok about this, pretty much saying the same thing. But yeah, you can't not compete. And I did think Derek Carr was making a little bit more money, but like, I think we're underestimating maybe how hard it is to compete for a championship. I guess I could see it with them. Like, I could see them going on a run.
If Nate,
like, it is
Nate Hobbs would
trading
be key.
A first and a second to pay a receiver $30 million is like not the Super Bowl winning move. It makes them really good right now. So it's like, It's kind of in that weird in between where it's like, yeah, it makes them better. Yeah, they should make the playoffs, but someone is missing the playoffs in the AFC. Someone is not making it.
That is the kicker. You're right. You look at the
so
Bills,
maybe I'm underselling the
Bills,
Raiders'
the
chances
Browns,
of making a run. They are
Ravens.
that talented, but I don't know.
Yes.
It's a tough move, but it's like, it's exciting, but it's tough.
It is tough, but it's always going to be tough. And let's see, there's Chiefs, Bills, Raiders, Broncos, Chargers, Browns, Bengals, Ravens. And then
Bills.
I already said Bills. That's 8. All right, that's already too many. And there's still going to be the AFC South, the Colts, and the Titans.
Yeah, one of the AFC South teams has to make it.
So like 2 really teams that we look at right now that look really good are going to miss. And maybe it's the Raiders. It could be, but I don't know. I have no guess right now. The Bengals maybe, but
Bengals have done a lot of work on that offensive line.
They have, they probably win the Super Bowl with an average offensive line like last year, and this year they got that. I do think that they're going to regress a little bit in the big play category because they just hit them at such a it just worked every time throwing to Jamar Chase, and it's like, is that going to happen again?
And T. Higgins,
and they were so healthy, and Trey Hendrickson had a sack in 10 straight games or something. Like everything just clicked for them. And it's like next year I could definitely see a world where, they're still good, but in this AFC, you need luck to be on your side, and luck was on their side a lot last year. And Odell got hurt in the Super Bowl when it was looking to be like that was going to be a massive problem. But so maybe it's the Bengals. I feel like this year I can kind of wipe my slate clean of the 2-14 prediction from them. And I can maybe this year not be a Bengals hater because it's a new team and a new year. So I don't want to get off on the wrong foot, but I could see it being them. The Ravens obviously missed it last year, but they were on pace to make it when Lamar was healthy. I don't know who it's going to be. I'll have to think about it a little bit more.
It's tough. There were some other receivers that went to new teams. Juju obviously to the Chiefs. Robert Woods to the Titans. We're still waiting to see where Julio and Jarvis end up.
I'm so sick of every single offseason. Multiple veteran players who are really good get traded for low draft picks because you have to take on their contract as well. So it's really not that great of a deal. And every time it's like, why would this team make that deal? And also, why would no other team beat that deal? And it's like, there's a reason for it,
Yeah.
But I do like Robert Woods to the Titans.
Yeah. He's probably maybe the best run blocking wide receiver in football. They run it a lot in Tennessee. They needed a wide receiver with Julio gone. Checks out to me, that seems like a really good fit for him there. I'm surprised the Rams would move on from him because they asked him to do a lot of that there. And you would assume that he's probably healthy pretty early in the season when he tore his ACL, which was midway through this one. You've seen stranger things than him being back week 1, week 2, week 3. So I'm a little bit surprised that they didn't value him enough to just keep him around and instead trading him for a 6th-round pick. But good for the Titans. I guess that's for the Titans' benefit. That division is really looking like an easy Titans win right now. So don't have to do anything too crazy. Just make sure that you stay the course and get these guys like Woods.
My thought with the Rams is, we talk about they just paid Stafford a big contract. They're probably thinking, okay, let's just surround Matthew Stafford with ballers. And if Robert Woods is, coming off an injury, maybe you want to get a guy like, I don't know, Allen Robinson, who they did get. And especially with Cam Akers, who's been, in and out of injury, maybe, I don't know. To me, it makes more sense to surround Stafford with receivers that are elite threats. And I don't know, maybe even Allen Robinson's not the same guy he used to be. But if you're like, okay, maybe we don't need a blocking receiver anymore.
Yeah.
When Cooper Kupp's coming off the best receiving season ever. And we can get a guy like Allen Robinson to fill in that vertical threat, then I don't know, maybe you're not so worried about being a run first team anymore.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, they did it, so obviously. Yeah. One more thing I want to talk about. One more thing, because we talked about the DeShaun Watson deal completely from the Browns' point of view. I want to talk a little bit about the Texans, who are also involved in this trade. You've got to feel pretty good if you're a Texans fan. Yeah, it's kind of a bummer that they couldn't get any good players in the trade, and now it's left up to crapshoots in the draft, and you'd like maybe someone like Greg Newsome, or you'd like someone like I don't know, something like that. But I mean, they had probably come to terms with the fact that they don't have DeShaun Watson on their team a long time ago. And you're at this point probably expecting him to, even if he left for absolutely nothing, you're a little bit ahead of schedule because they won just as many games with Davis Mills as they did with DeShaun Watson. So like, you're probably a little bit ahead of schedule with everything, and Mills looked pretty good. So you were probably like, even without all these extra picks, you were probably, as a Texans fan, just like, okay.
It almost feels like found money.
Yeah, it does.
It almost feels, it's like, well, he's already not on the team, and now you're getting the assets later. And I know that's not really how it works, but in a way.
Yes.
You got a bunch of draft picks. Cool. You got the 3 and the 13 this year.
Yeah. Turn that into like Kyle Hamilton and George Karlaftis. Keep like you're cooking all of a sudden, but bang. Yeah. That's a nice stuff all of a sudden. And do it again next year and the year after that and the year after that.
You can get some good players with first round.
If you happen to hit on all of your first round picks for the next 3 years, you're golden.
Yeah. And you don't have to pay this mega monster contract to somebody who, I mean, they already paid Watson, so I guess that already happened. But like now your books are clean. You've got a promising young quarterback. I really do think Davis Mills, like if Trevor Lawrence had the year that Davis Mills had, if he got drafted to the Texans with, it was just a horrible situation, and had the year that Davis Mills did, people would still be like, okay, like Mills was good. Yeah, he was probably the second or third best rookie quarterback. He was better than Zach Wilson.
They're kind of in a
yeah,
they're kind of in a spot where you can see what you have in Mills this year, and then if you're bad, and if he's not good, well, you have a bunch of first round draft picks in a quarterback class that's supposed to be really good in 2023. So it shouldn't be hard to go make a move and get your guy. And if he is good, then he's good.
What they should do is, however, trade Brandon Cooks to the Packers. That's what they should do. I think that would be so sick, but I don't know if they would do that because then they would not have any good receiving weapons or really weapons in general. So that probably wouldn't happen. But ideally,
they have the draft
world,
picks. They could get a receiver. They have the Browns' first round draft pick. They could get maybe Garrett Wilson or Drake London, which we'll talk about those guys later. But it seems like to me both the Browns and the Texans really won this trade. The Browns didn't have to give up any of their high level defensive players, and the Texans were able to get a lot of picks when they already considered that Watson was gone.
Yeah, it was big for the Browns. It was really big for the Browns because their roster is like just good enough to win a Super Bowl right now. If they were to lose like a big cornerstone or even like a young talent, then it would really get dicey. So the fact that they didn't have to do that is key for them. Was key for them.
I think that what lowered the cost is the money.
Yeah.
Yes. That's my guess, is that the teams weren't ready to pay that much guaranteed. So then all of a sudden the Texans lost a little bit of leverage when the Panthers back out, right? And they're like, well, we're not going to pay that, and who knows what else happened. And then if the price goes up money-wise, then the price has to go down asset-wise in the trade to make it fair.
For sure.
But yeah, both teams won the trade here. But you know what else is a W trade? Stay Hot's newest sponsor, Trade Coffee. I don't know how you guys like your coffee, whether it be, full-bodied roast, something light. We all have our preferences no matter, what you like to drink. And, Trade Coffee makes it easy to brew your best cup at home. And, they sell the freshest roasted and ethically sourced beans from America's best independent roasters. They ship free to you as often as you like, whole or ground. Whether you're a coffee nerd or just want a daily cup, there's real coffee experts that taste over 400 roasts and use technology to match you to your ideal coffee based on your preferences and brewing method. You can take the coffee quiz to get started. Trade Coffee guarantees you'll love your first bag or they'll replace it for free. And Trade has been featured by the New York Times, Wire, GQ, and has delivered over 5 million bags of coffee. Their subscription is no hassle. You can skip shipments, change your frequency, or cancel at any time. I'm not a big coffee drinker myself. I'm a big hot chocolate fan, but Theo,
if you're... I got a box, if you're going to be up late grinding film, watching the All-22, getting ready for the draft, seeing what seeing what players your favorite team is going to take with now 2 first-round picks like me, and you got to do double the scouting, and you're tired in the morning, you need some good coffee, I would highly recommend Trade Coffee. I've been they shipped us a box. I've been drinking it in the morning after working through the night, and look at me. Do I sound awake? Yes, I do. So it works clearly.
Theo Ash NFL is Theo Ash awake.
Yes.
And for our listeners right now, Trade Coffee is offering a total of $20 off your first 3 bags when you go to drinktrade.com/stayhot. That's more than 40 cups of coffee for free. To get started, take their quiz at drinktrade.com/stayhot and start your journey to your perfect cup. Again, that's drinktrade.com/stayhot for $20 off your first 3 bags of the freshest coffee you will ever have. But you know what else is fresh? Stay Hot's other sponsor, HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit. Because with HelloFresh, you get fresh, pre-measured ingredients and mouth-watering seasonal recipes delivered right to your door. HelloFresh lets you skip those trips to the grocery store and makes home cooking easy and affordable. HelloFresh lets you enjoy cooking and, get to eating in about 30 minutes or less. And not to mention, it is 30% cheaper than shopping at your local grocery store. Plus, you get to skip those pesky checkout lines. You can try their quick and easy meals like 15 to 20-minute dinners, breakfast on the go, and 10-minute lunches in the HelloFresh market. Perfect for you if you have a crazy class schedule, a job, with long hours, or a new internship. You can enjoy restaurant quality meals in the comfort of your own home. HelloFresh's gourmet recipes like meatloaf parm are over 72% cheaper than the average restaurant meal. I just got a new shipment of HelloFresh, and I go home this weekend for spring break. But as soon as I get back, you know what I'm going to be munching on? Some HelloFresh. Make sure you go to HelloFresh.com/StayHot16. Use the code StayHot16 for up to 16 free meals and 3 free gifts. Again, that's HelloFresh.com/StayHot16. Use the code StayHot16 to get HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit. Now let's talk about some wide receiver prospects. Maybe the #1 wide receiver, I think we can all agree, will be Garrett Wilson, or should be Garrett Wilson.
With ease. With ease. It's not close. I think we've been hyping up Garrett Wilson since as long as I can remember.
Which is valid because I really think he could be the next Odell Beckham. I really do. I think he's just perfect. I don't know. He's not perfect. I've seen some.
You want to hear a hot take?
Go for it.
My prospect #1.
Okay. Wow. That is really perfect.
Better than Kyle Hamilton.
Yep.
He's really good. I'm not too far behind. He's definitely a top 10 guy for me. I'm trying to think of everybody I've looked at, and I've looked at a lot of the top guys. I currently have him at 6, but I was thinking, I'm like, he might have a higher ceiling than like Aiden Hutchinson and
the 2 guys for me are Hutchinson and Hamilton, but 3 is not as interesting of a hot take. So I have him at 1.
Fair.
For the sake of the take, but
I don't see
why it wouldn't be up there. And I think it's a little crazy to have any other receiver over him.
I'm in a contingent on football Twitter who is pushing the Olave is better narrative, which
I think that's just completely insane.
I think it's completely insane too. And the reason is Olave is more technically refined, and he's just as fast, and he's just as fast, and he's a really smooth route runner, like really smooth. Whereas Wilson steps a lot, and he's not efficient, and there's a lot of wasted movement in his routes. But here's the thing: I don't care. It doesn't matter for him because he's going just all out all the time, and like 100% speed. Some people will like tempo their routes and like start off slow and then like speed up and they'll try to be he doesn't really do that. He just kind of like starts and he's going 100%, and it's just like, it's hard to stop. It is hard to stop. I don't really care about like how his routes look a little bit different or a little bit messier than some other guys, because it works, and he understands, like the blind spot and how to manipulate it, and he understands like leverage, and he beats it all the same. It's just a little bit messy. It's just a little bit more jerky in his movement, and but he moves like an insect. I don't understand. He moves like a creature.
It's not like he has to try to move certain ways. It's like he could decide where he's going to be at any given time.
Yes, and
having body control the way that Garrett Wilson does is one of the more valuable things that you can have as an athlete, let alone a wide receiver. So, like, I know, Theo, I watched your video on him. You showed that play against Clemson where he literally just jumps like basically through the defender to make this like circus catch.
Yeah, against Clemson, he's literally 6 feet in the air and his legs get like cut out from under him. So he's literally like his entire body, it's like a T. Like the defender is the base of the T, and then he's on top of it, like horizontally, and he's still tracking the ball like nothing is happening. It's like, bro, you are about to break your spine, and he doesn't care. Like the way that he makes catches outside of his frame is like, you might as well hit him right in the chest when it's like high and behind him. He just like spins around and just plucks it out of the air. Like his grip strength and like his hand strength is ridiculous. Like the way that he's able to just like catch things and keep moving like nothing happened, even though the ball is like way behind him. And then after the catch, he's like ridiculously good, ridiculously shifty. He's got like these Barry Sanders juke moves that he'll break out. It's crazy. And he's ran a 4.37. And he's good at creating separation, as strange as his routes may look sometimes. He's wide receiver 1. I don't care.
Every other receiver in this class has like something that you're like a little iffy about. There's always something with almost every receiver in this class, but not Garrett Wilson.
Yeah,
he does everything, and he does it all well.
Matt and Bladen, do you think that he is? How would you rank Jackson Smith and Jigba compared to him?
He's completely different. I think Garrett Wilson's better. I think Garrett Wilson is the best Ohio State receiver I can ever remember watching, as far as I'm concerned. And the thing about him, tough. I granted, I mean, in terms 2009
of
is the first year I really remember. So anyone before that, I don't know.
I remember, and I know he never worked out in the NFL. I just remember Devin Smith always being an absolute
Devin Smith
baller.
Was not better. Devin Smith was nice.
He was
Devin Smith wasn't even as good as Olave was.
Yeah. I don't remember like enough about Devin Smith because I think we were like 12 when Devin Smith was good. So
I'll say this. I think the only reason I can possibly think of for why Garrett Wilson is not a consensus like top 5 pick is that his production just like wasn't that crazy. But it's because he plays at Ohio State, and every receiver who starts on Ohio State now is not only going to be a first-round draft pick, almost certainly, but is going to be great in the NFL. Their track record recently has just been nuts. They have guys who can't get on the field.
Jameson Williams
going to be a first-round draft pick. Can't play at Ohio State because there's too many guys there.
Yeah.
Jeremy Ruckert as a tight end prospect was the number 2 prospect in his class. Like, he watches high school highlights. The dude's a beast. He goes to Ohio State, like never put up he had like 500 receiving yards total in his career at Ohio State. And guess what? Every time they threw him the ball, that he caught it. Like, his hands are ridiculous. He's a wildly talented tight end, in my opinion. No production at Ohio State. No production. And it's like
too many guys.
And it's like you watch this year, because Garrett Wilson had great production in 2020, I thought. Like, he was kind of Fields' dude, and they only played like 7 games. If that was like a full season, Garrett Wilson would have had crazy production numbers. But this year, I mean, Stroud liked Smith and Jigba better, like in the slot, and he threw it to him. And there were times where Wilson would be wide open and Stroud just wouldn't look his way, and it would work anyway. Like, it wouldn't have to look his way because they're whoever the first read is in that offense is probably getting open and probably getting the ball. Like, they're just that good. But Garrett Wilson is just ridiculously talented. Again, I think he reminds me of Odell Beckham, man. Like, the grip strength and like the way that he can make catches outside of his body and just the overall explosiveness of him is ridiculous. And it's unmatched by anybody else in the class, in my opinion. So, yeah.
I can't imagine Wilson not working out in the NFL.
There's no way. That's why I wanted the Browns to get him, just because I'm like, the way he can just get stuff out of his frame. I was like, if Baker misses him, which Baker will miss him at some point, he's going to catch it anyway because he's just that good.
I did a Packers mock draft, and I'm like, I traded up, and I was like, please give me Wilson.
And my Panthers mock draft had them getting Wilson.
Please,
although I don't think
Wilson.
he'll last past 8, 9, 10.
Yeah, I would agree.
Realistically.
Yeah.
Another guy you should be happy with getting is my wide receiver 2 is Drake London. Theo, I think he might be your wide receiver 2 also, but
I go back and forth between him and Burks.
Fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. Drake London, I was not high on like early on when I first started watching him because I only had access to his tape from last year when he couldn't run routes to save his life. And I was like, this dude's just a tight end, slot merchant. And then I got to see some of his stuff from this past year. I was like, oh, never mind. He's that guy.
He reminds. I keep seeing comps for him that's like Kenny Golladay, Mike Evans, Mike Williams, these contested catch like outside X receivers. And I get it. My comp for him was Cooper Kupp, and it's the total opposite of Mike Evans is Cooper Kupp. But like, if you're the Vikings and you want someone in that role because you just hired a McVay guy, like Drake London is, I think, someone who can do that. He doesn't. I think if he would have ran a 40 at the combine, he would have ran in the 4.6s. He's just not pulling away from dudes. He never does. When he won deep, it wasn't over the shoulder like a yard. The DB's like a yard or two behind him. It was always contested at the catch point. I think he would have ran in the 4.6s. I don't think he's very fast. But that being said, he's quick. He can change directions faster than a guy who is 6'5" should be able to do. There was a play against, I think it was Notre Dame that I showed in my video, where he caught an out route and he was moving pretty fast and the sideline was like right there, and he was able to stop before he got the sideline, juke a guy out, and then juke another guy out. And it's like when you watch him after the catch, he looks like Kupp. Like he's just strong and big and more agile than you'd think. He catches everything. Doesn't matter if it's through contact or what. He led the college football in contested catches this year, despite the fact that he missed like a good portion of the season. Catches everything. I think that he projects to be a pretty good blocker. He's not like great at it right now, but I think he could be. I think if you wanted to keep him in that like power slot type of role, like Kupp, he's 6'5". I think he could do it, and he might be better served because I just don't think he's that fast. But as a power slot,
he
I
did
really like
do
him.
really well. He did really well on the outside this year.
He did. He did.
In 2020, he did do a lot of stuff from the slot. I don't know. The more I think about it, I do see where you're coming from with the Kupp comp, and I see where people come from with the Mike Evans comp. I kind of think I lean Hopkins.
D-Hop?
Where it's like maybe not the most athletic receiver, but like once he gets the ball in his hands, man, it's like he can make you miss, and he can go up and he can make a contested catch on you, and he can do all these crazy things. The only difference is, again, Drake London is 6'5", which that's why people keep comparing him to Mike Evans. It's like, how many 6'5" receivers are there?
Garrett Wilson and D-Hop might not be a bad comparison, actually. If I'm thinking D-Hop, Wilson is a little, because Hopkins is smaller than you might expect. Cooper Kupp is literally bigger than
Hopkins
him.
is what, 6'1"?
Yeah, he's only like 6 feet, 6'1", which is what Garrett Wilson is. He's a little bit thinner. I don't think like Hopkins is this horrible comp for Drake London because there are just like the best contested catch artist at the NFL level, the best contested catch artist at the college level. So I don't hate that comp, but honestly, when I think of like the body type and just like some of the stuff I see D-Hop do, I think I might compare it more to Garrett Wilson just with the size. Kupp is also Kupp is also a good 3 inches, 2 or 3 inches shorter than London. So
that's
it's not
the thing
a
is like
either.
Finding a good comp for Drake London is so hard. It's like, well, do you compare him by skill set or size? Because there's no one at his size that has his skill set that I can think of.
Yeah. And Evans is pretty close. It's weird. Like Evans and Kupp just fill such different roles. And I think they're both decent comps for him. He's just a little bit slower than Evans and not quite as explosive. So I don't know. But Drake London, good. Yeah.
Very good.
Especially if you're like the Eagles and you've got Devontae Smith on one side who can win one-on-ones because he's such a good, like he's fast and he's a good route runner. And then if you want like the power forward Drake London on the other side and you want to create that like difference, I like that a lot. I think like the Eagles have 3 first-round picks. I think I'm just going to keep mocking London to them because they need a guy like him.
I don't think London falls that far, but
maybe not.
I don't know. Wide receiver 3. I can't remember who. I think Burks is my wide receiver 3.
Burks is a lot like London to me. Like I view them in similar ways because Burks legitimately did kind of play that power slot cup type of role in college. He wasn't on the outside all that much, and he would even line up in the backfield and whatnot. I have Burks with a slightly higher grade than London just because I think Burks has that extra oomph and that extra athleticism that London doesn't have. And Burks has, just as good of almost just as good as of a contested catching ability. Really big, soft hands, just makes ridiculous snags over guys. I always think of the fade when against Alabama when they had 4 wide receivers on one side.
He just stops.
And he was just by himself on the other side. And the 4 didn't even run routes. They just stood there, and it was basically like, he's running this fade and he's getting the ball. Like Arkansas treated him like the best player on a high school team. Like, all these other guys don't really. We're just going to get the ball to Burks, and he's going to do something crazy. So I'm a Burks fan. I don't think he's quite as smart as London is. Another thing I like about London is, and why I feel confident in the cup take, is he's really good at working with the quarterback and settling in holes in the zone. And when the quarterback scrambles, he always does a good job making himself available. And I don't think Burks has that kind of that kind of instinct, that level of football instincts that Drake London has. So that's it's close, but I would.
But a lot of times for Burks, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It just doesn't matter. He's just Burks' game plan is I am better than you, and I know I'm better than you.
Yeah.
And you should just throw me the football every single play. The game against Alabama, they should not have even been close in that game, Arkansas. And Treylon Burks single-handedly kept them in that game.
And I'm not too concerned about his 40 time either. A.J. Brown, I think, is a decent comp for him. Very similar testing scores. I think Deebo Samuel's a good comp for him. Very similar testing scores. It's okay, if 2 guys who I kind of thought he was tested in the same range, and those 2 are 2 of the best wide receivers in football, Burks, there's a lot of good wide receivers who run a 4.5. I would say even most of the good wide receivers run a 4.5, really. So, yeah, that 4.5 number, he obviously plays fast. Just watch him outrun all of Alabama's defense. All right. He carries pads well. If you put him in pads, his time probably wouldn't change. And maybe some of these smaller guys, they would, because that's a lot of weight. But I don't know what it is.
He also runs strong. It's not really about speed. It's my favorite Treylon Burks play is this dig route. He comes across the middle. It's a perfect pass, right in front of the linebacker and right before the safety.
KJ Jefferson for Arkansas is kind of nice. He's kind of nice. Their quarterback.
He made some nice throws.
He's not bad.
But he catches this pass and gets absolutely drilled, just lit up. I don't know who the safety was for Bama. Just runs right into him. And Burks acts like he doesn't even feel it. He just runs right through it. Mid-catch. I'm what in the... And then he breaks another tackle, and it's a 20-yard gain when most receivers, that's an incompletion.
All right, so let's transition to maybe another Ohio State wide receiver in Chris Olave. And obviously in the TikTok world, he's created quite a stir, as we've talked about. But at the end of the day, that's always been very funny to me, because it's literally just Chris Olave who's the consummate pro and just so solid. It's why is Olave creating any kind of
It'd literally be if Tyler Lockett just was controversial.
Yeah,
I think what gets me about Olave is that he probably doesn't have the insane upside of maybe a Burks or a London or a Wilson. But I mean, he's a great route runner, and he's really fast, and he's one of those guys who always seems to make the right play. And it really doesn't take much more than that to be an elite deep threat.
Right. And just even not a deep threat, just over the middle. He's not very good after the catch. I think that's the thing that it's okay, he's going to catch it, and he's probably not going to do all that much more with it after that, because he goes down pretty easily. He's pretty small. It reminds me a little bit of a discount Devontae Smith from last year, because Devontae Smith was kind of a similar, just elite route runner and great deep threat, and 170 pounds, really thin, really small. And I think a lot of people overthought Devontae Smith because of that last year and thought he couldn't survive. But the thing, if you watch Devontae, he was my wide receiver 1 last year. If you watch him, he's tough, man, and he runs through contact and he loves to block.
Yeah,
he legitimately like is a great blocker and like super physical. So like it doesn't really matter. That kind of nastiness and physicality is a little bit absent from Olave's game, which is why he's discount. But he's got the same kind of like speed and route running and body control and like he's a similar stature. So if Davante, like again, I think that he's going to be really solid. Like you put him at the Z. And he's not, maybe your X, you're like number one dominant guy at the NFL level, but I view him like a Marvin Jones or like a Will Fuller or like a Tyler Lockett, where it's just like if
he can still play a really valuable role,
really valuable role. But it's like if you're first half of the first round, you probably want someone a little bit with a little bit more upside and a little bit more like, okay, this could be an offensive player of the year, a contender at some point. This could be like an all-pro at some point, where when I look at Olave, I'm like, really good, really solid. Back half of the first round, if you have a guy like, if you're the Titans, and I guess that they have Woods, but if it's like, if you want A.J. Brown to be your true X and you want Woods to be your power slot, guy in the slot blocking, and then you want Olave on the other side of you as the Z to take the top off the defense, perfect. But he's not A.J. Brown, like he's not the dominant one in that equation. So I like Chris Olave. I don't love Chris Olave, but I mean, I think he's going to be quite good. So I don't dislike him.
One thing I find with some of the best route runners in the NFL, and I talk about like Judy and Davante, these guys all have like a route that you're like, that is a Jerry Judy route. That is a Davante Adams route. In Davante's case, it's like that goal line slant where he sells the fade really hard and he cuts back inside for the slant. That is his like special. He is really good at those. Jerry Judy, he does this like this fake shallow in. He breaks out. He is really good at those. Just the way he can open his hips. Olave, I think he's going to be really valuable because he's not a big contested catch guy, but on the goal line, he can do that fade, but then he like breaks out. That
I believe
route,
it's called a stool route is what it does. Where I
had never seen that until Olave did it.
Yes, it happens. It happens occasionally. Yeah, he ran a teach tape. Like I believe that's called a stool route, where you like break. He did it against Clemson. Are you referring to that one?
I don't know if it was against Clemson. I thought
I could be wrong.
I think it was in the regular season. I don't know, but that was one of the most vicious routes I've ever seen. To the point where like I go out to the field with my friends sometimes. We'll just like fuck around, run routes, whatever. And I tried to run that route, man. That route is hard to run.
Yeah, it is hard to run.
You feel that in your knees, like after you run that.
You gotta, yeah,
because it's not like a breakdown. You don't get it's not like a 10-yard out where you get to break down and open up. You have to like sell that fade and then plant and open up outside, and it's just really tough to do all that.
Yeah, it's like a goal line comeback a little bit. It's like a goal line comeback, but you have to do it. You don't get as much room to operate, so you really have to be intense with it. So yeah, he's really good. He ran just if you go look at like Chris Olave touchdowns versus Clemson, I think he may have had multiple, but one of them was just a gorgeous stool route that he's really good. He's really good, but he's just not like maybe the type of upside that others have. I think Jameson Williams is a guy who's I view as sort of similar. I think he's got a little bit more juice to him, though. I think he's the fastest in the class. I don't think that's a hot take, but he's got that speed. Like Olave is really fast, like really fast. But Jameson Williams has
he's even faster.
He's even faster, bro. And so I think that he's got a little bit more like oomph to him, a little bit more juice to him. He's not quite as fluid as a route runner. And when he was on Ohio State, he was literally behind Olave substantially on the depth chart. So maybe this is a foolish take, but the stuff he was doing for Alabama this year, like there are just times he pulls away from dudes he has no business pulling away from. Like it's always weird to see it because when the football is in your arm, you run slower. It's just you're like no one runs track like this with their arm with a ball like that. You would just make you slower. It like when you have the full range of movement. it's faster. So there are times like even if a wide receiver is faster than the corner will catch up once the wide receiver has the ball, just because it's harder for them to move around a little bit. But like Jameson Williams like doesn't get that, and there are times where he'll just like pull away, and it'll be like you keep expecting the dude to catch up, and he just won't. And yeah, that extra acceleration will just burn you, and it's even a little bit more than Olave. Also kind of skinny, Jameson Williams, and I think it affects him more than it did Devontae Smith. You'll see him get pushed off his line a little bit more, and you'll see it affect him a little bit more. And he operated from the slot a lot. I got some free releases, but he's still really good. And again, someone I can see in that Z type of role and just really, really take the top off a defense. Tracks the ball well, has good hands. I think he's solid. Runs pretty fluid route runner, not super great, not as good as Olave when it comes to like movement, but it's still pretty good. It's still pretty good.
To me, Jameson is the middle ground of like the Alabama speedsters. He's not as bad as Henry Ruggs. I did not like Henry Ruggs, but
he's definitely in between
he's
Waddle.
Not Waddle. He's not Waddle.
He's in between those two as prospects.
He's in between Ruggs and Waddle. I do agree with like he is not. If you can get your hands on him as a corner, you pretty much win. That's pretty much it for him. But that's the problem. It's so hard to get your hands on him.
Hard to do that.
He has one of the best releases off the line. It's so quick. The matchup again. I always mention the matchup of him and Elam in the game against Florida, and it's like Elam's always trying to get in his chest, and it's like because Elam is has good recovery speed. Usually he can make up for it, but like there's a lot of times where he misses, and it's just.
Yeah, Jameson's real good. Yeah, I agree. He's not as twitchy as Waddle was. Waddle was a little bit more of this compact guy, and he just ran full speed all the time. Like the way he could break routes like in and out without losing any speed was ridiculous, and always was going to be hard to go. And he was just better at the catch. I mean, the Dolphins used Waddle this year like he was Anquan. He beat a record that Anquan Bolden held. They used him like a possession catch guy, and he did a really good job with it, despite the fact that he's like this little speedster. So the fact that he can do that and his hands are that reliable combined with the crazy speed, like Waddle's really special. He was really, and I do think he was a little bit better and more well-rounded than Ruggs was. And Waddle went number 5 or 6 overall, and Ruggs went like 13th or 14th or something. So, that's a really high selection for Jameson Williams. If he goes in that range, we'll see how teams value him.
Yeah. But I don't think he'll go that high. Many receivers that, but I know a lot of people that do like Williams as like their wide receiver 1 or 2. So I wouldn't be totally surprised if a lot of teams view him in the same way, because as we've seen teams reach on receivers in the past. We've seen Ross go super high. We saw Ruggs go super high, and maybe they didn't quite deserve that. The other guy that I think is kind of in that tier 3 of receivers is Jahan Dotson. And I don't know how you guys feel. I like Dotson. I think Dotson plays a lot bigger than he is in the turn. And like we talk about, Garrett Wilson makes catches out of his frame all the time. So does Dotson. There's a lot of times Dotson will come across the middle and he gets a pass that's really high. And I'm like, and he goes up and gets it. I'm like, what is this dude? 6'4"? No, he's 5'11".
Yeah.
I mean, those plays are just so hard to come by with guys like that.
He reminds me a lot of Elijah Moore, who came out last year. I think that they're kind of similar, more pretty undersized, but they still catch everything. I think Elijah Moore had like the best hands in last year's. Him and Chase probably had the best hands in last year's class. So I was a really big fan of Elijah Moore last year. He went in the second round. I am not quite as big of a fan as Dotson. I think he's a little bit less physical. I think that he has problems. His routes go a little bit wide sometimes, where the corner will be able to push him to the sideline, and that gives it if you're trying to throw a fade, you need to work your way towards that sideline, and he's always a little bit too far outside, and he can get pushed over there. So I don't think that he's super physical. I don't think that he's going to be this like elite deep threat. He ran a 4.4, so it's plenty fast, but that ranked like in this really fast wide receiver class, ranked a little bit slower. You expected him to maybe be one of the fastest guys in this whole class, and he really wasn't. I have a second round grade on him. I think if Elijah Moore went in the second round, he should go in the second round. But like once you're in the second round, I think that he's useful for sure.
Yeah, I think second round's a fair fair place to put him in the realm of like Pickens and.
I like Pickens a little bit more. We were getting kind of long on time here, but I think Pickens is real good. I think Pickens can be an X and like a true dude who defeats a lot of different like coverages. He's fast, he's big, he's great at the catch point. I'm a Pickens fan. I haven't scouted him as much as these other guys, but just my initial.
Yeah, he seems like a type of guy who maybe has one upside, whereas when you get in the second round, some of the other guys who are good probably don't have the upside of being a one. So I wonder if a team like, I don't know, like the Lions, for example, could take a shot on him, where it's like
I mocked him to
looking for a one.
I mocked him to the Patriots at pick 21.
Right, because that's a team that's looking for a one.
Colts.
And maybe he's a little bit more of a dice roll when it comes to the health stuff, but that's okay.
And the personality stuff. He's a hothead.
I haven't heard of that.
He will fight. Yeah, he will fight you. There was a part where some dude like landed out of bounds on the Georgia sideline, and he took a water bottle and sprayed him with the water. He like sprayed the water at him. So he's like a big, like he's a kind of angry. He plays angry, and I don't know if it's a maturity issue, that's bad, but if it's like this unquenchable fire, that's good. So I don't know the guy, but his personality is a little bit volatile, which is fine. I think like there's a lot of wide receivers who are.
Hey, but you want your
like
receiver
that.
to be a little crazy, you know?
You do want your wide receiver to be a little crazy. So I think that I like that about him, but NFL, like the highest thing that causes busts at the NFL level is immaturity. So there's definitely like you really have to, in the interviews, you really have to like decide what that is, if it's like good crazy or bad crazy. So
I guess that's fair. Well, there is one other guy, I know we have to keep rolling, but one other guy that I do think is kind of getting slept on because of injury is John Mechie. John Mechie was really, really good for Alabama. And Jameson obviously took over, that number one role when he got hurt. But I don't want people to just like totally forget about Mechie. I think he was really good, and I think he still can.
He's a good sleeper. My sleeper is Romeo Doubs out of Nevada. When I was watching Carson Strong, I was like, okay, this dude is like Mountain West AJ Brown, huge hands, good route runner, good after the catch. Yeah, okay, sign me up. Good catch radius, good after the catch, good route runner. Okay, sounds good to me.
Yeah, that's all you need.
I'm a sleeper. And then Christian Watson is the other guy getting some first round hype, but I don't think he's quite the route runner people think he is, and I think his ball tracking ability is a little suspect. And I kind of view him as like a Marquez Valdez-Scantling, where he's too big, too fast to be like to not be useful. He's going to be useful, but like I have some questions about him. But we're getting low on time.
Big and fast can help pretty much any team. But if you need some help, you can always reach out to Stay Hot's newest sponsor, BetterHelp. Is there something interfering with your happiness or preventing you from achieving your goals? BetterHelp will assess your needs and match you with your own licensed professional therapist. And you can be matched with a therapist in under 48 hours. It's not a crisis line. It's not self-help. It's a professional It is professional therapy done securely online. This service is available for clients worldwide, and you can log into your account anytime and send a message directly to your therapist. You'll get timely and thoughtful responses. Plus, you can schedule weekly video or phone sessions so you won't ever have to sit in an uncomfortable waiting room like you may have in the past. BetterHelp is committing to facilitating great therapeutic matches, so they make it really easy and free to change your therapist if needed. If you're worried about the cost, it's more affordable than traditional offline therapy, and financial aid is available for those who need it. BetterHelp wants you to start living a happier life today. So go ahead and visit their website, read their testimonials that are posted daily, like this one where someone says they feel less stressed, anxious, and depressed. It's a really great option for anyone looking for affordable help. So go ahead, visit BetterHelp.com/stayhot. That's better, HELP, and join over 2 million people who have taken charge of their mental health with the help of an experienced professional. In fact, so many people have been using BetterHelp that they are recruiting additional therapists in all 50 states. Special offer for Stay Hot listeners: you can get 10% off your first month at BetterHelp.com/stayhot. Again, that is better, HELP.com/stayhot to better your life today. And you know what else you can do today? You can sign up for Underdog Fantasy, the fastest growing fantasy app ever, if you're looking to get into some March Madness, because, a lot of the brackets, like we're going to be talking about earlier, all of our brackets are pretty much toast. But
Matt's not. Matt's good.
Matt's is still good. Mine is toast. Theo,
mine's very toast. Mine's the worst.
Underdog lets you draft a dream fantasy team in just minutes, and March Madness is the quickest way, to get in on the action is with Underdog's Pick'em game. You can pick the over or under on 2 to 5 different player stats, and you can win up to 20 times your money in a single night. If your bracket's already busted, like mine and Theo's, this is a great way to get back into the tournament. And you can use the code STAYHOT when you sign up, and you'll get your first deposit doubled. So, with that being said, use the code STAYHOT at Underdog Fantasy on their website or their mobile app. Get your first deposit doubled. March Madness has been madness, as it always is. And I don't even know if I want to talk about how bad my bracket is. I did have St. Peter's going to the Final Four, and they are in the Sweet. I think they're in the Elite Eight now, right?
You gotta be the only one who has that, man. So
maybe.
I love the way they play. They passed the vibe check. All right, I thought, because I do run my projections, which I guess are useless because my bracket's so bad, but they did turn up pretty relatively well. So I already kind of liked them. And then they showed up versus Kentucky, and they were just I don't know, they had the it factor, dude. I've never felt it as much as I did. Their coach just did not look nervous one little bit. He wasn't he just looked completely calm. Everybody on the team looked completely calm. There was never a point Chattanooga played a game against Illinois, and they were on the brink of an upset. And towards the end, they just looked like they had no idea how to play. They just forgot how to. They didn't have the it factor. And I bet on them to win, but I cashed out when I saw them selling, because it was clear that they just did not have anything left in them. St. Peter's, I don't even know what it is. They're really good defensively, and they just have. It's clear watching them play that they have complete faith in themselves and the coach and everything. It's really cool to watch St. Peter's play basketball.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of teams. This happens in the NBA too, where it's that team is confident in themselves.
Yeah,
they're
it's
under
the Timberwolves. It's the Timberwolves right now. The Timberwolves have realized that if they just play the way that if they just play it's Game 7 of the final, every game is just intense for them now. And it's clear they realize that if they lock in, they can beat anybody. And that shift has recently happened with them. And it's they just are putting up 140 a night right now. The Timberwolves have completely bought in. That's the team where it's obvious to me. But yes.
Yeah, I don't know. Just be
sorry.
good.
I totally overran
Theo just
that.
cut off the train of thought.
I'm sorry.
Well, Matt, since you're the only one with a bracket left, what do you still have going for you at this point?
Well, I have 7 out of my 8 Elite 8, and I have 3 out of my 4 Final Four, and that's where all the points come from. I had Michigan in the Sweet 16. That was a pretty good call. Houston, I have going to the Final Four. They're still in it. I don't have any outside of Kentucky. That's my only big miss. But I had North Carolina beating Baylor, so I've called a few decent upsets.
Was there any thought process that went into that, or was it just vibe check?
Baylor is kind of beat up, and I thought North Carolina was a little underrated. Michigan, absolutely, they were getting underrated. I didn't want Michigan to win, and I just knew that was just it. It just gut feeling, no formula, gut. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Fair enough. Well, you're doing a lot better than me with my analytics and nerd shit. So this is what I get for trying to do it.
Here's what I think it is. I think it's just it's not like I have some insight on college basketball that you don't. But I don't pick as many big upsets, I feel like, because you're not going to get a perfect bracket. I'm just going to how good can I get my bracket? Fair. I just want to get a really good bracket, not a perfect one. So I'm still going to get dinged for not calling the big upsets. I didn't have St. Peter's winning, but because I'm not trying to get a perfect bracket, I'm also not going to call a major upset that will probably end up being wrong, so I don't hurt myself that way as much.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I always like to try to call the go big or go home, like trying to call a Cinderella run and like from San Francisco or South Dakota State, and all of a sudden it doesn't happen, and then you're just screwed, and you're like, why did I do that? But it is nice when it goes right. None of them are really going right at all for me, but last year they did a little bit. So I was a lot better last year. I'm usually not that bad at these. Like usually I'm like at least above the 50th percentile. But this year, Jesus, God, no, it's horrible.
The Tennessee pick is tough. It's tough to lose your champion in the round of 32.
It is. And I also bet on Baylor to play them in the championship.
What are your max points right now?
It's low, dude. I don't care. I'm not going to look. But can we talk a little bit about the Baylor UNC game? Because that was one of the funniest basketball games I've ever witnessed. That game, the backboard like pass when he got trapped and just like whipped it off the backboard was hilarious. I always think it's funny. Like the refs were objectively quite bad in that game, but like they were bad for both sides. So I didn't even think that was like a major thing. But man, what was the name of that guy who hit that basically game winning shot? RJ
Davis.
Cole Davis. Yeah, that guy's nails. The Suns should draft him.
No, he was tough. I don't know. I really thought UNC, even in overtime, it felt like they would get ahead, and then all of a sudden they're like, well, now we just have to hold the lead, and it felt like they got too much in that mindset, and then they tried their best to give the game to Baylor. They did everything in their power to give that one up. They did not want to go play another game, but RJ Davis willed them through mistakes and missed free throws, and they did play pretty well. Obviously, they beat a 1 seed, so.
I can't remember his name, and I'm going to feel dumb, but the player that's impressed me the most is the star player for New Mexico State, and I'm trying to think of the name of him right now. But
I have not watched every game, so I may have.
Perhaps he dropped like a ton of points on UConn and was talking shit and showboating like the entire game, and was just like dancing around and like barking at the scorer's table like throughout the whole thing, which I thought was cool. And then they lost to Arkansas. They lost a close game to Arkansas, but at least with like 4.5 seconds left and they were down by 4. He just like did this monster dunk. He just like weaved through the whole defense who wasn't really trying to guard him and just like threw it down, which I thought was hilarious. And he's really was a good one to keep track of. I kind of wish that he went farther in the tournament because he was a lot of fun to watch. This is me as a very casual college NBA fan, and I only watch during the tournament. But
if you think you're a casual fan, man, what does that make me?
We're all
very casual. College, yeah. I do watch the tournament. I've watched like most of the games in the tournament, though. I do really love watching the tournament. It's hilarious. It looks like an intramural game for like long stretches, like UNC versus Baylor. Like Teddy Allen was his name. Teddy Allen is his name. But there are long stretches and two of the best college basketball programs in history, UNC and Baylor, where there literally looks like they're messing around. Like they're like the gap between the NBA and college basketball is just, and they mic up the baskets so the bricks just sound like,
dude, that's my favorite part, man.
So
every
funny.
Brick just sounds horrible. It
sounds like a home invasion. It's like I'm ducking. It's like, oh my God, downtown Phoenix.
I'm excited for the Chet Holmgren analysis this offseason narratives debate. That's going to be.
He hasn't looked super great to me in from what I've watched.
Here's what's gonna kill it. A lot of people are gonna say, well, Mobley was skinny, and he's good, so being skinny cannot possibly be a problem. But Holmgren's like 20 pounds lighter, and there gets a point where it's like you will be too light. We'll see what he weighs at the combine. But I think
there's not a single good NBA player who really looks like him. Like not one really. So that's should tell you
Manute
that is a problem. Yeah, he's real good.
Although Manute Bol was a little bit different, but Manute Bol was super skinny too, and that was a little while ago.
That was a long time ago.
Well,
but anyway, yeah.
I don't know. I think does that wrap things up for us? Do you have anything else?
Kevin Durant.
I don't have much, no.
Coming into college, looked like him too. I don't know. But that's a
True.
whole different thing. He's not KD. He doesn't play like
Yeah.
KD. So
No, and he's a center,
Yeah.
Yeah. No one's really Kevin Durant, to be fair. But
That is true.
that pretty much wraps things up for us, as always. Tons and tons of content coming away on all platforms. We will be back Friday to talk more NFL, NBA action, probably some more March Madness also. We'll see. Don't miss out. All the great content coming away on all platforms. We have some surprises coming this week as well, so keep an eye out for those. And as always, from Corn Boy, Bird Boy, and Lemon Boy, we will catch you all on the flippity flop.